Hi. My layout's been coming along really well. I just finished my waterfall yesterday, and it's about time I started doing something with the edge of town over here. As you can see, it's the only unbuilt up part I have so far, and I'm going to show you how I've decided to make the edge of town for my layout. The most inexpensive way I know to build a town is with Woodland Scenics Town Factory. City and Industry is the HO version. This particular kit has 13 buildings in it. Cost around $120. I found it for $90. People have paid more for it. It just depends. You've got to look around for the best deal. It was intended to be used with Woodland Scenic Ridge, which is a kit for building an entire layout. You buy the layout, you buy the track, you buy this, and some trains and transformers, and you have a complete layout. But that gets rather expensive. I can build better for less, I think. But this is an inexpensive way to get a lot of buildings. It also comes with decals and that you can use for making signs and personalizing it. The instructions inside, there's a schematic showing you exactly where to place these buildings if you're building the Scenic Ridge kit by Woodland Scenics. But I have my own layout, and I needed to know where they fit. Before I bought this, I went on their website, and they gave me the dimensions of each kit so that I could see if they would fit on my town and what would fit. There's no point in building this if I could only use 6 or 7 buildings. It's not so. The only way it becomes economical is if I can use all or most of them. So I decided that I would be able to use at least 12 buildings, and bought the kit. The first thing I discovered upon buying the kit was that they lied to me. The dimensions they gave me differed somewhat from the dimensions that are on each kit, and the first one I built differed from that. As you can see from the kit, these are just a bunch of boxes. That's all they are. But they have windows, they have relief, they have details in them, but you have to paint them to bring them out. They're not going to come out on their own. But as you can see, they make a very nice building. This one, I have to complete the roof, but otherwise you can have a nice building with all of the buildings in here. You just have to take the time to do it. So I opened every kit. They're all taped together now, because I cut them all open and measuring them. Sometimes, for instance, at this particular piece, that's the entire width. But for the side pieces, for the length on this, you have to add this piece to it. You don't have to add the back piece because it fits in between the 2 side pieces. All right, you have to determine that so that you can get a complete footprint. Once you've done that, you can make your footprints. Let me see if I can find Otto's place in here. There it is. Here's Otto's parts footprint. So I did that with every kit and made these pieces so that I can take them over onto the layout and lay out my town with my streets and my sidewalks, and to know exactly what will fit, what will be where. So now we'll go over to the layout and check that out. All right, I've got my pieces laid out, and as you can see, I've got, if you count it as I panned, I have 12 of my 13 buildings here. They're all stores that you would see in town. And using my N-scale ruler and a pencil, I have determined that my streets are going to be 25 scale feet wide, with a 5-foot sidewalk on either side. So I've also drawn in the sidewalks and put them together to make sure. In other words, I started from this end and put in the 2 buildings like that, put in the buildings, and then I measured 35 feet to where the next building would be. I put the buildings across, measured 35 feet, that's a 25-foot road with 2 5-foot sidewalks, put in my next buildings, and then did the same across here. So that left me with 5-foot sidewalks around everything and a 25-foot wide road around everything. That should give me enough room for two lanes and enough room on one side to park. Although I'm going to have plenty of parking in my town. So once I have all of that lined, I'll show you the next step. All right, now that I have all of my blocks defined, this is I'm going to use some styrene sheets. I got these on Amazon for 7.5 by, well, what are they, 11-inch sheets for $8. And this is 4/100ths of an inch thickness. 4/100ths of an inch, and end scale is 6.4 inches. So that's a little steep for a curb, but not too steep. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut out pieces for each block that I've lined out. And as you can see, when I lay that down, the building itself will define the sidewalks. You see how that works? And that's got white on white here. Let me lay this up next to it. Maybe that'll help you see a little better. But as you can see, the styrene will define the sidewalks. So I will use the lines that I have drawn on here as my guide for drawing my blocks, and I will cut one for each one. And when I have that ready, I will lay the street. I'm going to talk to you some about the street right now. You can see the asphalt that I have laid already. This is black foam core. I buy sheets at the Hobby Lobby. I have a sheet here, it's 20 inches by 30 inches. What's that price on it? $5.99. Don't forget your 40% off coupon. But the core in here is black, and the outside peels very easily, leaving that. And it gives a very nice asphalt effect, either new asphalt, or if you want to check my roads again, you can see that when you color them, I use some white chalk and line them. They make very nice roads. So after I get use the lines on here to cut my city blocks where I will place my buildings, after I've done that, I'll set those aside and we'll cover this entire area, this entire white area here, all of it, or cover the whole thing with the asphalt. Then the concrete, the styrene sheets representing concrete will go on top of that, and we'll have a street down here, then a step up, and then the buildings. And it will all look very nice. So I'm going to cut those pieces now and show you how that works. As you can see, I've accomplished quite a bit of work since our last session. I have laid the foam core to represent the street. I have laid down the styrene sheets that I cut for the city blocks that will fit. And I have lined the parking spaces and the road. We'll talk about that first. What I use for lining is pinstripe tapes. This is 1/32 of an inch. Let's see, I believe I dropped my tape on the floor. Yes, here's the tape. You can see it's very thin. It's sticky back tape. And I measured out from my sidewalk and cut them, and it makes real nice lines for that. I also have a yellow tape that I put down for the street dividers. If you are, the tape is not real expensive. It's $3 for each, so don't try to save it. If you have a long expanse to do with breaks in it, take the tape and put it down all the way, and then come back and cut out what you don't need. Same thing with doing the broken lines. Put a long piece of tape in there and then measure out. I've used in scale feet 6 feet with a 9-foot gap, and 6 feet with a 9-foot gap is what I've chosen to use because it looks good to me. Again, cut it out, because if you try to just put pieces down, I've tried putting the pieces I cut from one place into another place, and I just couldn't get the line straight. If you can, you're better than I am, but that's what I'm going to do. The next thing I wanted to do was join my sections. You can see the dark places. I wanted to cover up the joints in the foam core, and I decided that that would be tar. And this is where I ran into a problem, because it didn't work out exactly the way I thought it would. I had an old jar of liquid electrician's tape, and I put a sample of it down here. This glob is my original, and this line over here is my original. And it looked okay to me. It didn't seem to be eating into the foam core. Well, as you can see from other pieces on this demonstration, that's not what happened when I went out and bought some new electrician's tape. Bought this at the same place I bought the other jar, but this is a different brand, and evidently it has a lot more naphtha in it. Also, evidently, my old liquid electrician's tape had, although it has less naphtha, the old jar had much of the naphtha evaporated. It was thicker, but because there wasn't as much naphtha, that's why when I tested it, it didn't melt the foam core. It didn't have the foam melting ingredient in it. So I went out and I bought the same brand I had before. This is the brand that I ended up using, Gardner Bender, if you can see the GB there. And it has less naphtha in it. And this is the sample of it. As you can see, it still ate some of the foam, but not nearly as much as the other brand. You can see the other brand's much deeper. It ate much more deeply into the foam. Now this other brand may be just fine for what it's being used for, but it wasn't helping me a lot. I had to be very careful, but it looks all right. Now this section over here doesn't look like natural breaks fixed, so I decided that it would be a place where the road was dug up and some pipes or cables or something were put in. As you can see down here, I have dug a trench with dirt up on the side. I've got some little cones to block off the street, and I've got workmen to put in there and cables to put under it, and that's going to be what that is. Over here, it's a little thicker than I wanted, but it's not too thick. So while I was hassling with that, I developed another way to join them, and I'll show you. I've cut into this piece of foam core. I made 3 cuts, and as you can see, one of them is empty here. One of them I filled with clear silicone caulk, and then I painted it. I used a gloss here, but I'm thinking maybe a flat black would be better. Here's the clear silicone that I used. It does not eat the plastic, and you can cut the end off just allowing a little bit to come out and make a nice thin line in there, and you don't have to worry about it eating away your plastic. And then you can paint it black to represent tar. So that is the way I suggest you do it, because the method I used, although it came out all right, is not very good. For the sidewalks, first of all, I used my scale ruler to edge each of my city blocks with the 5-foot sidewalk. Just drew it right in there. And then, using I think I used a Lego, and I drew the expansion joints in, as you can see. And then using this this back line here is just a guide to show you how long to make the expansion joints, because that's going to be erased. Then using a knife and this pick, I went in and scribed. Oh, let's see, I left out one thing. Besides the expansion joints, I also, and it's not doesn't appear to be showing too well on this, there's also a line about 5 inches, 5 scale inches from the edge to represent the curb piece. It's not showing too clearly here. And over here I've actually put in my cuts. I did them first with a knife to give me a little trough. If I get too close, I lose my focus. And over here, as you can see, I've colored the chalk. Now, I colored the sidewalk with chalk. What I used was AIM weathering powder, a dirty white. Dirty white is the same powder that I used over here on my roads. And using a brush that I cut the end off to make the bristles a little stiffer, I just rubbed it in where I needed it. So with that done, I'll put a building here on the corner. And come around where you can see. As you see, the building itself defines the edge of the sidewalk. And that is how I'm going to lay out my town. One word of caution when working with the foam core: it is soft, and if you gouge it, which is going to happen to you, don't worry about it. That looks like a good place to have a pothole repair. Same thing when you're scoring the styrene to show the expansion points. If you miss and score it somewhere you didn't want to go, that'll be a good place to put a crack in your sidewalk. So that's my edge of town. I expect it to come out quite well, and I hope this has been helpful to you in planning your town. Remember, if you're going to use something, if you're going to use buildings beside the town and factory kit that I bought from Woodland Scenics, just be sure that you have the footprints to so that you can design the town first and know that they're going to fit. And I guess that's all I have to say. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time. Bye. Well, it's been 6 months since the last session I recorded on laying out the edge of town here for Woodland Scenics Town and Factory. It took quite a while to build all these buildings. I didn't build one of them. I didn't build the kit's transfer. I decided to build a grain elevator instead. But I did build the other 12 buildings. You can see them here. The passenger depot with the tile roof down there is not part of the kit, but the other buildings here are. And I'll bring it in now. And these were the first two I built. Now the one that I have marked as a hotel was originally supposed to be the real theater, but I couldn't imagine a theater with bay windows up front, so I made it a hotel. And the one next to it is Shots, Gun, and Tackle, and it had a nice flat front, so I built a marquee for it and made it my theater. And as you can see down the town, we have all of the buildings included in the kit. And down at the end, the big building that was the hotel, it had such nice big windows all around it that I decided I'd make it a Sears Roebuck, and I would dress all of those windows. And over here I have the bank and Baxter's Hardware. So it makes a really nice edge of town and a very inexpensive way to get a lot of buildings, and you can do so much with them. All of mine are lighted and have scenes inside with people to see, and I highly recommend Woodland Scenics Town and Factory, although I would like to ask them where the factories are, because I couldn't find any. But I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you for viewing.